Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name's Rachel and I make videos about sewing, quilting and my general creative life. I regularly post to Instagram and TikTok, so anywhere else that you can find me on the web is listed down in the description box below. So in today's video, as you could probably guess from the title, I've become addicted to foundation paper piecing. Always been a method of quilting that I've been interested in because it seems accurate, and I love English paper piecing, so I thought foundation paper piecing. But when I've watched videos in the past, I've been so confused. And when I attended my local quilt group, a lovely lady there, Vicky, she taught me how to do it, and it's so simple really. So I am really happy. I have really been enjoying creating. I don't think I've stopped. I haven't picked up FPP since I learnt, which was probably maybe 3 weeks ago, and I do feel very guilty about that, but more on that later in the video. So I'm going to show you today what I've been creating, some of the patterns that I've been using, all the patterns that I mention. If I don't mention them by name in the video, I certainly will put them in the description box below. But if you would also like to see maybe a method or a loose tutorial on foundation paper piecing, do let me know, because I would say that I am beginner, but I have tried quite a few patterns, and I think once you've got the hang of it, you can generally just roll with it, can't you? That's what I think anyway. Positive attitude. Once you know how to do it, you can do anything. So this was the block that I did first to begin with. This was the block that I sat down with Vicky and she taught me how to do. So I think I did it wrong there, that's why it's folding up. But this is a simple economy block, and it is very simple. You can get these downloaded for free in lots of different sizes. I can't remember if I ended up paying for one that had lots of different sizes included, but I'll leave the link for the one that I used in the description. And this is how the backs generally look. So again, like English paper piecing, once it's completely sewn, you can remove it. So I could actually remove this next layer, but not the outer layer, because that helps you line everything up and get your seams really nice. Because look, I didn't cut the corner off. And can you believe that for my first time joining? And then from there, once I'd mastered the economy block, I think it's called, I then made a pouch for my temperature quilt. I used lots of fabric that I've been hoarding from Rose Garden Patchwork, and I created this really simple pouch because previously I had been storing my temperature quilt in a plastic bag, and I thought, no, I need a nice pouch. So what I did was I created 9 of these blocks. I fussy cut the fabric for the middle, and then I just put pieces around and created colour combinations that I thought was quite cute and nice. And then I did a diagonal quilt pattern across it. I then also from Rose Garden Patchwork did a border, and the back is in the same fabric and it's got all these lovely hand signals all over them. I really liked that. And then I just used a regular zip, and the inside is just some scrap fabric that I had bought for binding, so it was just left over for a quilt that I bound. And then I've got a really cute zip charm, and that's from Rose Garden Patchwork as well. These were fabrics that I bought quite a while ago. Maybe within the last 12 months I certainly did purchase them, but I bought quite a few bundles. She sells scrap bundles, and then she had some fat quarters reduced, and I just thought those are too pretty. There's too much fussy cutting possibilities. I thought, no, I don't want to cut into them, but I thought, you know what, this is the perfect project. And whilst I knew that I didn't have enough fabric for a quilt, with this being a project bag from a temperature quilt, I'm going to look at this every day, and it just brings me so much joy. So I was really happy to create that. And I did just make up the pattern for the pouch, so there wasn't any type of pattern for it. Then from there I thought, what else can I make like a storage wallet for? And I had a a project bag in mind that I wanted to make, and I started making these lattice strips because I thought that would be really nice and simple just down the centre of a project bag. But I did that one and I thought there's not enough contrast between the colours. So then I just went into my scraps and I created this strip. But as you can see, I haven't actually made it into a project bag. The thing that put me off, well, it didn't put me off, but it stopped me, is when I come to look at this, it was actually ripped. So I think there I can see that the fabric has started to fray and perhaps I didn't give enough seam allowance. But both of these I just used strips that I had, you know, scraps and things like that. So I do find that this type of patchwork is really good for using your scraps. So I started those with the best of intentions, but I just put it down to, well, it's nice to try different techniques. I bought those patterns from Etsy, so again I'll put those below. Yeah, I just enjoyed doing it and playing around with it. And then from there I made a cushion. So I made the block first and I finished the cushion last night. Now bear in mind, just for time frame, this was probably the day after I had learned how to do it. So that weekend I didn't do anything else. I was just gone crazy for this. And it's so much fun when you get so inspired, isn't it? And you just want to do it and do everything and find all the patterns, and it was just so much fun. So yeah, I created this cushion cover with, I think this is called the Outline Star. Again, it was purchased by a designer on Etsy called 10 Cow Quilts. I think it is, yeah, 10 Cow Quilts. And then I've just added some quilting directly through and turned it into an envelope back cushion. I think my cushion is slightly overfilled because I don't know if you can see there's like some puckering on the side, and that's just because the cushion is so full. Again, I used scraps for this, so it was really good for using up scraps. I didn't put too much thought into the colours, I just went for nice summery, springy colours. Any colour that I was drawn to, it went in there. And the white is actually a pillowcase, and if you can see here, there's perhaps a little bit of wrinkling. It is because the cushion's overstuffed, but it might also be because the fabric is thin. But then again, it is sandwiched in the quilt because it's quilted. But just for a seasonal cushion cover, it's just great fun. I did think that would be lovely as a whole quilt, wouldn't it? Loads of those. You could do sort of 4 across by 5 or 6 down, because that is quite a big block. And with these type of patterns, you get all different sizes in there as well. But yeah. And then it was at that point that I realised that a light pad would be really useful to help me see the pattern, because the way that you do foundation paper piecing is you put the fabric on the reverse of the paper and then you flip it over and sew. So you really need a source of light to be able to see the markings that you need to follow. Just for sort of placing your fabric in the start. So when you're doing something quite intricate like that star, I did need this. Luckily I did that on the Saturday morning and I could just hold it up to the sun that was shining through the window and it's fine. But because I work and things, I do a lot of my sewing on the evening, so this has been a godsend. I bought this off Amazon. I think it was about £15, and it has 3 settings of light. It's not plugged in at the moment, but you just press the power button, 3 settings of light, and it is really, really good. And if you followed me for a while, you'll know that I'm just obsessed with tiny patchwork. Anything tiny I want to do, and that's why I was drawn to English paper piecing, because it allows you to do tiny. But I've discovered with foundation paper piecing you can also do tiny. So then I did a tiny log cabin. I think this probably finishes, let me measure it, this finishes at 2.5 inches. How cute is that? So with that one I did patterned fabric on this side and then just plain fabric on that side, but I didn't feel that contrast was pronounced as much, but I just thought it was so stinking cute to do that. And then I've just done binding, and I didn't bother quilting it because I thought if I put quilting lines through it, it might detract from the design. So yeah, I just hand stitch the binding on, and it's going to go on the wall behind me just there. But then I had a go at doing the log cabins where you form the patterns, which again I'd never done before. So I know there's endless patterns that you can do with log cabins, isn't there, when you do this sort of colour placement. And I thought the colour placement would be quite difficult, but it's really not when you get into it. So I did this pattern. So it's hard to believe really that this pattern is just this block, just duplicated 4 times, and then just with a little bit of colour placement you can create so much different designs. So again, I just used scraps on here, and I was a little critical on myself that you can see the stitches on the centre there, but honestly there's so many layers of fabric pulled together there that I think you would see the stitches whatever you did. So it's very thick and dimensional, this one, because as you can imagine there's a lot of seams that intersect on the back. This one would make a really good coaster, but I don't know if I can ever bring myself to put a cup of tea on a coaster, especially something that is just so precious. It's because I always like spill my tea as I'm carrying it, and then inevitably it's going to leave a ring. Am I just being too precious? These things can be washed, can't they? So plans for creating another mini quilt. I've got this tiny foundation block, which I think is 2 inches. Yep. So the finished size on that one is 2 inches. So I might do maybe 4 of those and create another little mini quilt. I just like the challenge of doing tiny things, and they're just so cute. If you know of any designers who do small foundation paper pieced patterns, do just let me know. But what I'm thinking is I could probably shrink them down on the computer, you know, just print at 50% the size or something. But I think it'd have to be quite simple patterns. You couldn't shrink this star down, could you? Because those pieces, it was already fiddly as it is, so the pieces tiny would be difficult. I have also heard that you can do foundation paper piecing by hand using interfacing, non-fusible, lightweight interfacing rather than paper, and that way you don't have to remove the paper and you're not actually sewing through the paper either. So I might give that a go, because like I said, I have felt so guilty, and I know that I shouldn't, but I've just felt like, oh no, I do English paper piecing, I hand sew, that's what I like say that I do, and I've just felt so guilty being on my machine every night. But I've told myself if I enjoy it and I'm having fun, brilliant. I'm still quilting at the end of the day, I'm still creating things that bring me so much happiness. But also, if I am going to ever use the amount of fabric that I purchase, I need to do some things with speed. I need to sew at the rate that I purchase fabric, which is difficult by hand. And I'm not prepared to not buy fabric. I should be really. But yeah, it's nice to pull out your stash and be like, oh yeah, I'll sew through that and see that I am actually using what I've got, even though it doesn't look like I've used anything. Why is that? I've used quite a lot of fabric doing these projects, but even my scrap bags, they're not getting any less. In actual fact, it seems like the scraps are taking up more space because they're not flat anymore. I'm like pulling and rummaging through. So I don't know, yes. Does anyone else ever feel like that? That you're like cheating on a certain craft if you do something else? I know that I shouldn't. It's not a nice way to feel, or to feel that there's rules with crafting. But yeah, I do sometimes, and I shouldn't. And I'm going to tell myself to stop. Now, the last and arguably my favourite project. You might have seen this on some of my shorter videos that I've been doing, but I've been making these patchwork houses. I've still got the papers in. Now, these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 20 there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to join them in blocks. I'm going to do a block like this and then just leave them, and then I'll join them together so that I can finesse the colour placement. Now, I'll leave the link to the designer's Etsy page in the description box below. it's just a fabulous pattern. So she has these mini houses that come with the design, and then also as an additional she has got, and then also as an addition she's got some mini trees, and I think there's at least 5 designs. So you've got the regular trees, and then here, I didn't do this one in great contrast of fabric, but you've got sort of like a lollipop tree that looks like, but you've got different sizes, varieties of all of these. And you probably, if you had watched my previous shorts video, you'll know that I am doing this as a quilt. So I'm going to create it into a quilt. It's just so much fun. And I've also asked people to leave comments letting me know what colour combinations of houses that they want, so that then everyone's dream house colour combination will be included in the quilt. So the same goes for this video. If you would like a mini house making, just leave me a comment down on this video letting me know 2 colours and I'll put them together. Don't make them obscure on purpose. Yes, I've got a list of everyone's colours and I'm just ticking them off as I go. And these are really fun to make. You can use quite thin pieces of fabric. The roofs take a 2.5 inch square cut in half. So I've been pulling out all of my charm packs and just having a really good rummage through my fabric. The night I didn't feel in too much of a sewing mood, so I pulled together all of my scraps, made up the colour combinations that I thought I would want. So when I feel like having a big sewing session, which I think will be this weekend, I can just sit down and sew, because sometimes it's quite time consuming to choose the fabrics, isn't it? So they've all been chosen and put together. So I haven't yet removed the papers from this square that I've done, but it is very easy to remove, and I am going to start removing the papers as I go along. But like English paper piecing, I'll just leave the outer houses with the papers in, just because that really helps you join and make sure all of your points meet, which is another thing. I'm really happy with how all of the points meet. I don't think I've cut off many of the roofs or anything, or I just find it so accurate. And like I said, that's why I was drawn to English paper piecing, because I just really enjoyed the accuracy of that. And it's the same with the foundation paper piecing. You get the security of the paper being there, and it's quite an easy process to follow. Although it looks complicated on the outside, but it is an easy process to follow. So yeah, I'm going to start creating more blocks of that size, and then I'll just join them together as I go along. I think I've got at least 30 here already prepared. I've got that massive stack. So I also need to make some more trees, because I'm trying to put a good amount of trees in there. I've seen as well on Instagram some quilts where it is just the trees, and obviously you could do just the houses if you wanted to. There's just so many possibilities. I'm thinking I'll give it a go with the hand sewing, because I don't always want to be hunched at the machine. Sometimes I really like to just be in my armchair doing my stitching. So it would be nice to have a go with the hand sewing, but I'm not going to punish myself. But as always, if you have any questions or requests on anything that you would like to see from my channel, do just leave me a comment on this video. I always read every single comment, but I don't always get the chance to reply. I do try and put the heart next to the comment so you'll know that I've read the comment, but there are just so many comments at the moment that I'm struggling to reply to them all, but I do read them all. And also on that note, I wanted to thank everyone who has supported me on my Ko-fi account in purchasing a coffee for me. That just touches my heart. So thank you so much for your generosity with that. So until next time, you take care, enjoy yourself, and happy crafting. Bye bye.